What's up, you guys? This is Devin from CenturyFX Studios, back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about flash power output today, and we're going to be using a Monolight, and we're also going to be using a SpeedLite to present this to you today. Now, the SpeedLite is the tool that most people get when they want to upgrade their cameras, and the Monolight is the step up, the big daddy, when they really want to start using strobe power to its maximum efficiency. Now, strobes or monolights and SpeedLites are both measured in what we call guide numbers. But I don't really pay attention to guide numbers if you haven't already noticed. I know that the guide numbers have a distance to f-stop ratio to ISO ratio and all this other stuff that you have to understand what guide numbers are telling you. But guide numbers are very hard to remember in the field. Now, they can give you a general gist of where you need to be, and if you're at a constant spot with your flash and you're at a constant spot from your subject, then you don't have to necessarily worry about the guide number. The guide number helps you a lot, but the guide number has been around for a long time, and cameras have not only been filmed, but they've also went to digital now, and we have digital light meters with high powered strobes and battery powered strobes that become inconsistent. So there's a whole bunch of things that you have to worry about when it comes to using strobes and the power output that you get from them. Now let's go over the tools that we're going to be using for this test, and then I'll tell you how we're going to do this test. Now, for the subject, we're actually using a PRT J. Christina white balance card. I got this off of YouTube, I think about 20 and change, but I love this to do my custom white balances because it has all the different types of colors on there, and then it has an accurate 20% gray on there, also with a flat white. So if you want to tune it, and it also has different color temperatures on the back if you want to tune and modify your color temperature based off of the correct color temperature. So this is really nice, and I understand that J. Christina is a YouTuber, so shout out to J. Christina for creating this, or whatever you did in making this. It says your name on here, so I got to give you a little bit of credit. Okay, as for our SpeedLite back here, we are using, of course, my trusty dusty, which breaks all the time, my Yongnuo YN600EX Mark I. Now, this SpeedLite is the Canon mount, but it does just fine. It's one of the most powerful SpeedLites that you can get. Powerful third-party SpeedLites that you can get. It's pretty much a copy of Canon 600EX-RT Mark whatever SpeedLite, and it has a radio triggered system where you can actually put a receiver on top and control multiple SpeedLites without actually having the SpeedLite on the camera. So a lot of people either have something close to this or have something that's just like a SpeedLite, maybe a 400 series or a basic model of this or a basic model Canon, so they can relate to the flash power coming out of this. This is going to have a pretty high flash output. So for those people who are aiming to get something like this or have something close, they can kind of use these f-stop measurements that I'm going to get to apply to their own. This is my baby, the FlashPoint Monolight. Now, like I said, unlike the SpeedLite has pretty much everything contained in it, but it uses battery power. Now, just like the SpeedLite, the Monolight has everything inside of it that you need. It has a battery source, it has the receiver, it has everything that you need. Everything is contained. You don't even have any cords for this Monolight. Now, unlike the SpeedLite, the Monolight packs a wallop, and traditionally, Monolights are more powerful than actual SpeedLites. But as you can see, the SpeedLite mounts on top of your camera, but I have it on a stand right now, and this mounts only on a light stand. So it has its own walk. It does not walk the same way the SpeedLite does, but you'll understand that when you're using it. Now, there are some distinct advantages to using both of these, but a lot of people, when they start to build their photography repertoire and decide to build a bit of gear to go professional or just to use it, they're going to understand they're going to have both of these on their side, because this is one of the most powerful ways to light a subject on the go. Having a SpeedLite, I still use it for my weddings. I still use it for so many different things because it's so much easier than setting up the Solstice back here. Even though I love her and I use her almost every other day, I can't set this up every single place, but I can pretty much set this up wherever my camera is. So it's important to understand both of these light outputs, how they interact with each other, and if you were to use them together, how much power you would need out of both. Obviously, this is not as big as that one, so you can assume that this one is less powerful than that one. Just like I told you, SpeedLites are less powerful than Monolights. But let's get into exactly how much power output we're going to get. Now, the purpose of this video is to understand how much power in comparison to each other at different distances that we can get. Now, when we compare these two, we're going to try to get away from using the guide number and get more apt to using f-stops. Now, f-stops are not the most accurate measurement. T-stops are actually more accurate than f-stops. But since we can only control f-stops on our camera, we're going to go by f-stops, and we're going to use a Sekonic light meter. This is the Sekonic FlashMate L308SU. And this Sekonic flash meter will give us a readout from the distances that these lights are at. And then we're going to just take that reading at 1/8 power, 1/4 power, 1/2 power, and full power at the same distances these lights are going to be. We're going to test the power. Now, at the end of this video, guys, we're going to be doing an image quality test. Now, the reason why most people get flashes is to increase image quality. So you understand that, the more light you can feed that camera and the more you can control the light, shape the light, and mold the light, the better your image becomes. But if you don't have enough light to actually feed that camera, the camera starts to give you noise and higher ISOs and bad color quality, bad sharpness, bad everything, bad image quality in general. The reason why we get flashes and high powered lights is to feed our cameras as much light as we need to and control the light on the scene. Now, the more we control that light, the more we can feed the camera, the better our image quality becomes. Just point blank, period. All right, so I'm done talking. I hope I explained that well for you guys. I've talked a lot in the last video. I don't feel like talking that much more in this video. All right, so let's get right into the flash comparison. All right, guys, as I set everything up, I want to tell you guys exactly what I'm doing. I'm setting both light sources at the exact same distance to the subject. So both of them will be sitting at 4 feet away from the subject, and then both of them will be sitting 8 feet away from the subject. We're going to be testing these lights at their respective powers, not at 1/1, but we're also going to be doing 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, and 1/2. So we're going to be doing all these different powers because we want to get a comprehensive look at exactly what these two light sources are doing in comparison to each other at the respective powers that they say. So if their respective power is 1/8 on the FlashPoint, I'm going to be using 1/8 on the Yongnuo, so on and so forth. So 1/4 for 1/4 for both, 1/2 for both, and 1/1 for both. As you can see on my table, I have the sources lined up on the left side. I have the powers going up in increments going across the top, and then I have the results going next to each one of my light sources. So we just finished the 8-foot test. Now the 8-foot test is pretty you can assume exactly what we're going to get. As far as when we start, we kind of end up with the same thing, which is an increment of 1 stop on both tools. So going from 1/8 to 1/4 to 1/2 to 1/2 on the Yongnuo, each increment is 1 stop. And 1 stop is a doubling of light. So when you're using this in context on your camera, all you do is increase your aperture by 1 stop or decrease your aperture by 1 stop, depending on what situation you're in comparison to both lights. Now, as you look at my table for the 4-foot results, you're going to see something very interesting. Now, you can see that from the lower powers, like 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, we have more of a 1-stop increment like we did before. It's pretty consistent. But here, I noticed at 1/1 that the FlashPoint offers us pretty much approximately 2 stops of light, going from a whopping f22 to a whopping f45, which I don't even think most lenses get you to f45 nowadays. So when I'm looking at this, I'm really pondering. I'm really baffled at the results that I got, considering that I did everything. I kept testing each one of these powers, especially at 1/1, because I noticed that when I was shooting with the Yongnuo, that 1/1, especially using battery power, was inconsistent. So I had to keep firing it and keep on firing it, especially when I was close to the Yongnuo. I could see inconsistencies in the 1/1 or max power. I don't know why this was, but maybe it's because it's using battery power, maybe it's because it's a third-party thing, but I had inconsistent flash results. So I had to keep firing it, and after about 10 pops, I started to get a consistent 805 or something like that. for the main power, for the max power for the Yongnuo. But after learning exactly what I was doing, I understood that everything is extremely functional in the Monolight, but everything is not extremely functional in the SpeedLite. Now that I'm using these results, I see that I get 2 stops from the FlashPoint. Now, why do I get 2 stops more from the FlashPoint than I did in comparison to its own results? Its own results told me that I had a 1-stop difference in between these noted powers. Now, why at the same noted powers at a different distance did I get more power? I could give 2 reasons why that is. Now, one reason is because the inverse square law. Like we said, light falls off faster than you think. Now, since light falls off faster than you think, I would understand that, okay, well, if I bring these light sources closer, that the results will be different. But then I would have to go back to the SpeedLite and say, well, why didn't the SpeedLite give me the exact same results? Which was baffling to me until I started to think about the FlashPoint itself. The FlashPoint goes up in increments of, you would have 1/8, but then you have 1/8, and then you have another small little increment of adding 0.3 to that, and then you have a 0.7, and then it gets to 1/4, and then you have 1/4 plus 0.3 plus 0.7, and then 1/2, and then you have 1/2, 0.3, 0.7, and then you get 1/1. But maybe this flash is holding back some power, and then when you go 1/1 at a distance that's not too far from the subject, you get way more. Maybe watt seconds are not extremely accurate, or maybe, I don't know. All right, so now we're going to do something interesting. We're testing both of these flashes at different distances. Now, I noticed that, of course, the FlashPoint is more powerful than the Yongnuo 600EX-RT, but if we put them side by side and test them, the Yongnuo at 4 feet, which is double the distance closer to the subject than the 8-foot distance readings that we get from the FlashPoint, we get extremely similar results. That means is if I have the FlashPoint double the distance away from my subject and I fire it at the equivalent power settings, I will get similar results to the FlashPoint at double the distance closer, or 4 feet closer. That's pretty interesting. Now, like I said, 4 feet and 8 feet are the 2 main distances away from my subject that I tend to work with. Now, sometimes I'll go as far as 14 to 16 feet, depending on if I'm doing groups, so on and so forth. Maybe I need that FlashPoint away from my camera and that modifier away from my body. But for the most part, it's 4 to 8 feet for most situations that involve 3 people or less. Now, if you understand this, you'll understand that if I have both of them, if I'm starting to meter in my studio, or if I'm starting to meter outside, if I'm using both of them in tandem, or if I'm using both of them together, then I'll start both of them at the same power. I'll probably start both of them at 1/4 power, and then I'll just bring the FlashPoint up 4 feet, and then I don't have to necessarily worry about it not showing up in the image, because the problem you get with using both of these in the same context, in the same picture, is because the problem you get is you're not able to see how much light the SpeedLite is shedding on the subject, because the FlashPoint is so much more powerful than the SpeedLite. But now that I know that it's only a factor of distance, a factor of 1 stop, it's only a factor of about 4 feet, if I tune them to the exact same power, granted that I want an equal power from both of them, then I'll get similar results to the results that I'm getting now. The last 2 table results that you'll see is the light source compared to itself at 4 feet and 8 foot. I did this for the Yongnuo, and I did this for the FlashPoint. Now, it doesn't really apply to this video because I'm comparing and contrasting them both in this video, and so comparing them to themselves, it really doesn't help. But I do need to know this, and just so you know, I put this table together. I will be using these tables in later results. But one thing that you need to take away from this video, guys, is that even though you get ratings from the manufacturers, even though you get a guide number, even though you get watt seconds and all of these great, glorious things that help, it's just like ISO numbers or ISO numbers. Don't kill me in the comments with that ISO thing. But even though you get these different ratings from the manufacturers, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it exactly straight out of the camera and all of it's going to be applied to your image. What about when you have to actually put a modifier on these things? What about when you have to flash it through something? What about when it has to bounce off of something? What if it's at a different zoom rating? What if there's so many different what ifs when you get these flash ratings, these guide numbers and all these other things that don't give you the maximum power that you think. So with all that being said, I'm done with CenturyFX Studios. Take this into stride, test your own equipment, find out exactly how much power you're getting so you're able to think about it conclusively in the field. And so when your clients or your friends see you with all this expensive camera equipment, you know exactly what it's doing, how to use it, and how to get the results that you want. Like I said, guys, I'm done with CenturyFX Studios, and keep clicking your cameras.